Hi, I'm Andy Miocha and you're watching A News. Here are the headlines. Dozens die in a fire at a hotel in the Turkish ski resort of Bolu. Trump pardons January 6th defendants, moves to pull US out of the World Health Organization and Paris Climate Agreement. Algeria demands accountability from France for colonial-era nuclear tests. Thank you for tuning in. At least 66 people have died and many others were injured in a fire that broke out at a hotel in a ski resort in the north of Turkey. Investigation on the cause of the fire is underway.
The fire started late at night at the Kartalkaya ski resort hotel. The incident forced guests to jump from windows during the night, one of the witnesses told local media. The 11-story building of the Grand Kartal Hotel, where the fire occurred. According to officials, the wooden-fronted hotel housed 234 guests at the time. The fire coincided with the start of a 2-week school holiday, a period when skiing enthusiasts from Istanbul and Ankara frequently visit the Bolu Mountains. Authorities have stated that the cause of the fire is under investigation. It has been reported that more than 250 rescuers were at the scene. The cause of the fire remains unclear. Justice Minister Yilmaz Tunç announced that a judicial investigation involving 6 prosecutors and 5 experts has been launched. Efforts to control the fire and conduct investigations are ongoing, while the identities of the victims have yet to be released.
Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan has called on the implementation of all stages of the Gaza ceasefire deal between Israel and Hamas. Speaking at a joint press conference with Slovak Prime Minister Robert Fico in Ankara, Erdogan said Turkey supports the formation of a Palestinian state based on the 1967 borders. He also called for lifting of the international sanctions imposed on Syria to aid reconstruction. Fico was visiting Ankara for talks on ensuring the security of Russian gas supplies through Turkey. Here in Baku, Ruben Vardanyan faced charges in Baku's military court, accused of terrorism, financing armed groups, and other offenses. Our Nigar Shirinova brings more.
Today we are following the ongoing trial in Baku concerning Ruben Vardanyan, a former separatist leader and Russian billionaire who faces multiple criminal charges related to his activities in Azerbaijan's Karabakh region. Vardanyan, a man who rose to prominence in Russia during the 19th, has been known for his philanthropy and also been implicated in money laundering schemes through his financial brainchild Troika dialogue. Being a man of unveiled and vast financial resources, he has quite often been the epicenter of public attention, with the trial receiving extensive media attention. Vardanyan is now accused of a range of grave offenses under Azerbaijan's criminal code. These include planning and waging aggressive war, genocide, forced displacement, persecution, torture, military robbery, and violations of international law during armed conflict. Additionally, he faces charges of financing terrorism, mercenary activities, and creating illegal armed groups, among others. Today's court session marks the continuation of the preparatory which began on January 17 in Baku court complex. The proceedings are being overseen by Judge Zeynal Agayev of the Baku Military Court. As required by law, Vardanyan has been provided with a Russian language translator and defense counsel of his choice. 6 state prosecutors, the are representing the prosecution with Rufat Mammadov, the head of Azerbaijan's Cabinet of Ministers office, representing the Azerbaijan as the victim in this criminal case. The criminal case involves over 531,000 victims, underlying the vast scale of alleged crimes committed by Vardanyan and others implicated in this conflict. In addition to Vardanyan, 15 other individuals are being charged for their involvement in these actions of the illegal separatist entity known as Nagorno-Karabakh Republic, the de facto existence of which come to an end in September 2023. The charges include genocide, unlawful killings, forced deportations, and also other violations of international humanitarian law. The trial is a significant part of Azerbaijan's ongoing efforts to seek justice for the victims and hold accountable those responsible for the destabilization of the region and undermining of Azerbaijan's sovereignty. The trial is set to resume later this month with the preliminary hearings for Ruben Vardanyan scheduled for January 27, 2025. During this session, Vardanyan requested additional time to familiarize himself with the case materials, and the court granted him a 10-day extension for these defense preparations. We will continue to keep you informed and as the trial progress and new developments emerge. Nigar Shirinova, A News, Baku, Azerbaijan.
Donald Trump has wasted no time on the first day of his new term as President of the United States. He pardoned about 1,500 people convicted of taking part in the January 6th storming of the Capitol, moved to withdraw the U.S. from the World Health Organization and the Paris Climate Agreement, lifted sanctions on Israeli settlers in the occupied West Bank, and paused foreign aid.
Very important executive orders of our new administration.
On the very first day of his presidency, Donald Trump signed over 40 executive orders, signaling a strong shift in U.S. policy, particularly in foreign affairs and domestic issues. Trump moved quickly to reinstate policies from his first term. One of his first actions was to pardon approximately 1,500 individuals involved in the January 6, 2021 U.S. Capitol attack, addressing what he referred to as the weaponization of federal law enforcement. The pardons fulfilled his campaign promise to support those involved in the Capitol riots, including members of far-right groups. Trump also signed a memorandum directing federal agencies to ease regulatory restrictions, particularly in oil and gas production, aiming to combat inflation and reduce energy costs for Americans. In a highly symbolic move, Trump withdrew the U.S. from the Paris Climate Agreement, reaffirming his stance on climate change and pushing for increased fossil fuel production. He declared a national energy emergency to ensure the U.S. remains energy independent. U.S. President also signed an executive action that delays enforcement of the TikTok ban for 75 days. Trump swiftly reinstated hardline immigration policies, including a national emergency at the U.S.-Mexico border and freezing the U.S. refugee admission program. Donald Trump also announced the U.S. would withdraw from the World Health Organization, criticizing the organization for mishandling the COVID-19 pandemic and failing to implement necessary reforms.
So we paid $500 million to World Health when I was here, and I terminated it. China, with 1.4 billion people, we have 350 to pay. We have, nobody knows what we have because so many people came in illegally, but let's say we have 325. They had 1.4 billion. They were paying 39 million, we were paying 500 million. It seemed a little unfair to me.
Trump's first day also saw the repeal of 78 executive orders from the Biden administration, the rollback of protections for transgender individuals, and the end of federal diversity, equity, and inclusion programs, staying true to his campaign promises.
The World Health Organization has expressed regret over the United States' decision to leave, urging a reconsideration. The US has been a WHO member since 1948, shaping its work for over 7 decades. US President Donald Trump announced the withdrawal, citing concerns over WHO's handling of health crises and financial demands. The US, which funds 18% of the organization's $6.8 billion budget, will cease support in 12 months. As traditional U.S. allies congratulated Trump on his inauguration, expressing optimism on future relations with Washington, Russia said it was ready to discuss Ukraine with the new president of the United States.
World leaders extended congratulations to Donald Trump on his inauguration as the 47th President of the United States on January 20th, marking the beginning of his second term. In messages shared via social media, several high-profile figures praised the US-led global partnerships and expressed optimism for the future under Trump's leadership. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu commended the Great Alliance between Israel and the US, highlighting key achievements of Trump's first term, such as the Abraham Accords and the decision to withdraw from the Iran nuclear deal.
President Trump, Sarah and I send our warmest wishes to you, Melania, and the American people on your second inauguration as President of the United States. Your first term as President was filled with groundbreaking moments in the history of the great alliance between our two countries.
In Europe, the inauguration was met with praise from UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer, who emphasised the enduring, special relationship between the UK and the US, predicting continued collaboration for years to come.
On behalf of His Majesty's Government and the United Kingdom, I would like to send my warmest congratulations to President Trump on his inauguration as the 47th President of the United States. For centuries, the relationship between our two nations has been one of collaboration, cooperation, and enduring partnership. It is a uniquely close bond. Together, we have defended the world from tyranny and worked towards our mutual security and prosperity.
German Chancellor Olaf Scholz stressed the importance of transatlantic relations, calling the US a vital ally. Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban praised the US shift under Trump, calling it a victory for patriots. Polish President Andrzej Duda praised Donald Trump's second term, highlighting his experience, business expertise, and friendly approach toward Poland. Japan aims to arrange an early meeting between President Trump and Prime Minister Ishiba to strengthen the Japan-US alliance, said Chief Cabinet Secretary Yoshimasa Hayashi. Azerbaijan's President Ilham Aliyev congratulated US President Donald Trump via a letter on the start of his second term, highlighting strong cooperation in energy security and expressing confidence in continued collaboration. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, in a message posted on X, celebrated Trump's inauguration as a chance to strengthen peace efforts, emphasizing Ukraine's readiness to collaborate with the US to achieve true peace.
I wish President Trump and all of America success. Ukrainians are ready to work together with Americans to achieve peace, true peace.
Russian President Vladimir Putin congratulated US President Donald Trump and expressed readiness to discuss Ukraine and nuclear arms with his administration.
We see the statement of the newly elected President of the United States and members of his team about the desire to restore direct contacts with Russia that were interrupted not by us, but by the outgoing administration. We also hear his statement about the need to do everything possible to prevent World War III. We certainly welcome this attitude.
European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen emphasized the importance of US-EU cooperation on global challenges and shared prosperity. Other leaders, including Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, and Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese, also offered congratulations, highlighting shared opportunities for growth, security, and global collaboration in the years ahead. As Trump begins his second term, he enters office once again as a figure committed to reshaping US foreign policy, with a focus on remaking government institutions and re-evaluating international alliances.
During his campaign and in the run-up to his inauguration, Donald Trump outlined his approach to international crises. From Ukraine to the Middle East, Trump vowed a unique strategy.
Donald Trump has made it clear his foreign policy will center on reducing US involvement in endless wars, while asserting American dominance on the world stage. He claims his experience as a deal maker will help him bring peace to some of the world's most complex conflicts. On the war in Ukraine, Trump has promised to broker a peace deal within 24 hours of taking office, though he has not offered specifics on how he would achieve such a rapid resolution. Critics question whether his close relationship with Russian President Vladimir Putin could influence his approach, potentially at the expense of Ukraine's sovereignty. Trump has also hinted at reassessing US military aid to Ukraine, suggesting that European allies should bear a greater share of the burden. This stance echoes his first-term policy of pressuring NATO members to increase defense spending. In the Middle East, Trump plans to build on the Abraham Accords, which normalized relations between Israel and several Arab nations during his first term. He argues that these agreements lay the groundwork for a broader peace strategy, including a potential resolution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. However, tensions in Gaza and the West Bank pose significant challenges. Meanwhile, Trump has vowed to adopt a harder stance on Iran, calling for tougher sanctions and even hinting at military action if Tehran moves closer to developing nuclear weapons. This marks a stark contrast to the Biden administration's efforts to revive the Iran nuclear deal. Trump's promises on global conflicts highlight a blend of bold rhetoric and controversial strategies. While his supporters praise his America First approach, opponents warn that it could alienate allies and escalate tensions.
The U.S. Senate confirmed Marco Rubio as the new Secretary of State. Rubio has stressed reducing U.S. reliance on China and prioritizing American interests in foreign policy.
Together with Donald Trump, we are going to make America not just great, but greater than it has ever been before.
Marco Antonio Rubio is the 72nd United States Secretary of State. A Republican from Florida, Rubio served as a U.S. Senator, was the Speaker of the Florida House of Representatives, and was running for president in 2016, ultimately endorsing Trump after suspending his campaign. Now he is the new U.S. Secretary of State. Before his confirmation, Rubio made his case for the role in the nomination, hearings stressing the importance of U.S. leadership in a chaotic world.
We are once again called to create a free world out of the chaos, and this will not be easy. And it will be impossible without a strong and a confident America that engages in the world, putting our core national interests once again above all else.
Known for his strong stances on Latin America and China, Rubio has been a vocal critic of China's global influence. This confirmation comes at a time of heightened tensions in US-China relations. A Chinese foreign ministry spokesperson recently reiterated that China will firmly maintain its national interests, but acknowledged the importance of senior officials from both countries maintaining contact in an appropriate manner. He has also been an advocate for a more assertive US role in global conflicts, including in Ukraine, where he has emphasized the need for both Russia and Ukraine to make concessions for peace. In a historic move, Rubio became the first Latino to serve as Secretary of State. He is the highest-ranking Hispanic-American official in U.S. history.
We were more feared and respected and safer.
New Yorkers chanted slogans and gathered to protest against Donald Trump on his presidential inauguration day. The People's Forum said the protesters came together to demand a future that centers the needs of the people over the interests of the wealthy elite. Several hundred people also gathered in a park several miles from the central Washington, D.C. inauguration proceedings, protesting a wide range of issues as Trump was sworn into office.
The Constitution.
Following Trump's remarks on retaking the Panama Canal in his inauguration speech, a group of unions protested in front of the residence of the U.S. ambassador in Panama City, burning U.S. flags.
After President Donald Trump reiterated during his inauguration speech that he intends to regain control of the Panama Canal, unionized workers marched to the U.S. ambassador's residence in Panama City to protest the president's remarks. During his inauguration speech on Monday, delivered inside the rotunda of the U.S. Capitol, Trump reiterated his intention to take back control of the Panama Canal. This is one of several foreign policy statements that have caused concern among U.S. allies.
We do not accept Trump's declaration under any circumstances. Neither Trump, nor the gringos, nor their army, nor their government have anything to do in Panama. What is in Panama belongs to the Panamanians. The canal is Panamanian. Panamanian sovereignty, self-determination is Panamanian. They have nothing to do here. Consequently, that is the message we are sending to the world.
Each country has its internal policies and laws. As Panamanians and as a sovereign country, we also have our own. I believe in the sovereignty of Panama. I do not think that the intentions of President Trump are viable, since there is a history behind the return of the canal to Panamanian hands. So I think that all those things mean something for Panamanians and are a strong reason for the canal to be maintained and continue to belong to the Panamanians.
In December 2024, then President-elect Trump had made a similar threat about seizing control of the canal, an 82-kilometer artificial waterway connecting the Pacific and Atlantic Oceans and serving as a critical international shipping route. Panama celebrated the 25th anniversary of the United States handover of its interoceanic canal in 2024. The transfer followed the signing of treaties in 1977 by former U.S. President Jimmy Carter, which led to the canal's eventual handover on December 31st, 1999.
South Korea's suspended President Yoon Suk-yeol has made his first appearance at his impeachment trial, where he denied ordering the arrest of lawmakers during his attempt to impose martial law. Parliament voted to impeach Yoon last month, and last week the Constitutional Court began a trial to decide whether to permanently remove him from office. Yoon is also facing a separate criminal investigation into whether he led an insurrection. He has been detained since last week. Baku hosted an international conference dedicated to the French colony La Réunion. The participants say that the legacy of colonialism on the island continues to have a profound impact, with French influence on the island obstructing the population's efforts to achieve political and economic independence. Here's what they had to say.
The relationship between colonial France and Réunion is one of slavery and genocide, because France, with its colonial strategies, wanted to completely eliminate the population of Réunion. Thus, on the one hand, through centuries of slavery, and then even after the abolition of slavery, France compensated the slave owners with the equivalent of 27 billion euros, so that they could keep their land, keep all their power, and today, in fact, it is the same families who hold all the cultural and social power in Réunion. And so the people are drowning in the relationship with this colonial ideology, which is why the white man, the colonist, has power in all the interstices of Réunion society. Each of the Réunionnais, but after learning about history, the power of our ancestors, we feel capable and we know that we will overthrow this colonial system and achieve our sovereignty. And in fact, independence is just a step. It is obvious. We know that we will win. We will continue to work with the new generation to activate the political and historical consciousness of our people so that they win. In fact, Emmanuel Macron, he is our press attaché. He is so stupid when he speaks that we should just let him express himself like that, and we know that people will go to our work because he is inhuman. You just have to see how he expressed himself in Mayotte, with so much inhumanity, with so much sensitivity, for that you have to be really inhuman, and these people are disconnected from reality, in fact. They have a colonial legacy. We can even call them Nazis. Colonists and Nazis, it is the same genocidal strategy. So, finally, we know that French policy is stupid. And that is why we are working to activate the historical and political consciousness so that in the face of this French political stupidity, We, on the other hand, are something. We will build a réunion.
France's influence is mostly in agriculture and also in fishing, as we know that Réunion has this capability. For them, keeping Réunion is truly an economic matter. We want Réunion to be free to define its own goals, to do what it wants to do, and not have decisions made by France. France portrays itself as a French country, but in reality, it is not. Whether it's Réunion, Mayotte, or Martinique, wherever it has settled in the so-called overseas territories, it does the same thing. That's why we say no, stop, we are tired. Stop.
The growing inequalities in Réunion stem from the historically unequal distribution, this unequal distribution of the country's land and wealth in relation to its people. That is, you have a minority, as I said before, a minority descended from the slave owners who returned all the wealth in the community that precisely founded Réunion, who then got nothing and were forced to go and, so to speak, work for the same masters. And this is continuous. This means that as long as there is no fair distribution of the crime committed by the French state and no compensation, it will be difficult, if not impossible, for me to demand social equality in this context. The goal is development. This is the development of Réunion. For this, we must first be independent and be able to demand compensation from France for slavery and the unequal distribution of the country's wealth. The unemployment problem in Réunion is structural. It is important to know that national education, that is, the system that teaches us school, from kindergarten through primary school, middle school, high school, etc., was established by France. That is, we learn stories at school, more than 10,000 geography, of a country that is more than 10,000 kilometers away from us. So we do not learn to know ourselves. We do not learn another language. We do not learn about our neighbors around us, Madagascar, Mauritius and Seychelles, etc., and they impose a history that does not suit us. We have a culture that France denies, and it imposes its culture on us. And so as we grow, we have difficulty as a colonial people to flourish, to know ourselves, to flourish, and to find a place in the society of Réunion. And this is true for Réunion. It is true for all the other colonies that are valid for Réunion, whether it is Martinique, Guadeloupe, Guyana, and other colonies. And the problem of unemployment is already linked to learning from a very young age. When you enter an environment without knowing yourself already, it becomes difficult to evolve and find your way in a system that denies your identity. So the real source of the problem is education. And as soon as we find this, as soon as we gain our independence, we will be able to put into operation an education system adapted to the realities of Réunion. There is also no will on the part of France to ensure that young people are employed, because, as they say, and this is the current reality, there is a colony to enrich the metropolis without competing with it. So, France is not interested in training our young people to develop it in the country, but it is in its interest to ensure that Réunion brings its money without spending too much. So the solution for young people is to acquire and lead professions specific to Réunion. This could be agriculture. There are many things that we can do directly in Réunion that are not highlighted. Not only is it not highlighted, but some of the jobs that our young graduates can do are not taken up by the French who return to Réunion, how can I say, so that they do not employ young people in this field.
The Speaker of Algeria's Upper House of Parliament called on France to take full responsibility for the lasting health and environmental damage caused by nuclear tests conducted in the country between 1960 and 1966.
The legacy of France's nuclear tests in Algeria continues to affect the country decades after the explosions. Between 1960 and 1966, 17 nuclear tests were carried out in the Algerian desert, leaving behind severe health and environmental consequences that still plague local communities. The chairman of the Algeria's Council of the Nation, Saleh Goujil, called on France to take full responsibility for the lasting effects of those actions. He highlighted that many Algerians, particularly in regions affected by the explosions, continue to suffer from the harmful consequences of the tests. The first of these tests took place near Regani, marking the start of France's nuclear weapons program. While the tests were conducted to enhance France's military power, they devastated Algeria's people and environment. Even after Algeria gained independence in 1962, France continued its nuclear testing under the Evian Accords, leaving lasting damage. Communities living near the test sites suffer from a range of health issues, including cancers, birth defects, and respiratory diseases caused by radiation exposure. Many have died from these illnesses, and survivors are still struggling to receive adequate health care or recognition for their suffering. The environmental fallout is equally catastrophic. Vast areas of land, once suitable for agriculture, are now contaminated and uninhabitable, disrupting the livelihoods of local populations. The radioactive waste buried in the desert poses a long-term threat, creating an ongoing hazard for future generations. Despite these devastating impacts, both the French and Algerian governments have yet to take meaningful action. The UN Special Rapporteur on Toxics and Human Rights has urged both countries to acknowledge the damage, declassify relevant documents, and provide reparations for the victims. However, as for now, the affected communities are still waiting for justice.
That's all we have for you for now. Thank you for watching, and do stay tuned to A News.